What is up, guys? Welcome into another episode of From the Wing. I am Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We've got a great show for you today. It is all about Zion Williamson. Well, except the top portion of the show where we'll talk about some news that happened yesterday, the Javonte Green signing. But the rest of the show is dedicated to Zion Williamson, who hosted a camp in his hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, was the subject of a lot of discussion because he looked really good in the photos. And this is something that has happened before. But I think the change we've seen from Zion the past few months, even those close to the situation who've been here through all the ups and downs, you've got to feel pretty good about it. And then at the end of the show, we're going to do a draft where me and Adam each pick 7 players, 25 years old or younger. Going to get into that and kind of, I guess, pit some of the NBA's best young players against each other. We're going to try to make teams. We're going to try to make teams that like actually fit together. We're not going to just be amassing talent, which is that what the Pelicans are? Are they just an amassment of talent? Then who cares about the fit?
I mean, I wish I could dispute it right now. It's really only it's one specific issue that we've elaborated on 100 times. We need a center. We have an extra wing, wing/forward, and we're missing a center. And if that switched, everything would be fine.
All right, before we get into the Zion stuff, let's hit this news. On Tuesday, Shams Charania of The Athletic reported that the Pelicans are signing Javonte Green to a 1-year deal. I think all the beat reporters, including me who checked on it, said, yes, it's fully guaranteed. The Pelicans previously had 14 players on standard contracts on their books. The Javonte Green signing means that the Pelicans have 15 players on standard contracts on their books. That is the maximum allowed. Pelicans got 15 dudes on regular deals, 3 guys in two-way deals. That means they're fully stocked. They can't add any more players on standard deals. They can't add any more two-way players. I thought this was pretty interesting on a few different levels. I think, first of all, look, the Pelicans are about $3.8 million above the luxury tax line right now. I think there's, like, if you just look at the roster and how the contracts work, there's a good likelihood that they go down to 14 sometime soon. I'm just looking at Matt Ryan, who's $2.2 million, is not guaranteed until the first day of the regular season. That would get the Pelicans a little bit closer to the luxury tax line. So, look, just my hunch is that there could be a corresponding move when Javonte Green passes his physical. But let's talk about Javonte Green, the player. I mean, you were pretty excited about this. What does this guy bring to the team?
This is one of my weird dudes. I like a true role player that is not he is neither a failing stellar draft pick who failed expectations or a young up and comer. This dude is just a role playing like combo guard wing. He's 6'4" with a huge wingspan. He's defensive more than anything. On offense, he doesn't have a ton of flaws. It's Najee like. He's good at a little bit of everything, but you don't want him to be your go-to scorer for any stretch run of a game. It's just a guy that's going to do the right things, that's going to get you some turnovers, that's arm length is going to bother people, and he's pretty physical. He's he may only be 6'4", but he's like 210 pounds and a 6'10" wingspan, and that's
listed at 6'5", 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Thick boy.
Yeah. Thick, long boy.
He's certified thick.
So yeah, it's nothing to lose your mind over, but he falls in that weird category of people that I tend to like when everybody called me I'm blanking on his name now, Daniel Gafford guy and whatnot. I have a small obsession with the Anthony Melton, like those weird, just guys that aren't stars, aren't trying to be stars, aren't expected to be stars, that just are what they are and live up to it. That's what he is. And he's going to outplay the money that you gave him.
Yeah, I got a little bit of insight about kind of how this came about. Javonte Green has spent time with the Celtics, but mostly most of his career has happened with the Chicago Bulls. He's kind of been with them for, I don't know, most of 4 seasons. He dealt with some injury stuff last year, but he signed a 10-day towards the end of the year. And he actually played really well at the end of the season when, let's just be honest, the basketball is kind of weird. And, like a random role player can score 30 points or whatever. Like there was a little bit of that. Gar Forman, who is a scout with the Pelicans now, is a top executive with the Bulls for a long time. From my understanding, I think Gar Forman, still keeps a close eye on the Bulls. He liked Javonte Green, what he saw from him these past couple of years, but especially towards the end of last season. And he's one of the people who said, "Hey, look, we should keep tabs on this guy." Like minimum guy for sure. I think there was like agreement with at a lot of different levels of Pelicans organization that like this was a guy that they like to get in a minimum deal. I think they put him in a minimum deal on the table to him and his agent a while back and just said, "Hey, look, we'd love to have you if you can find something. If you can find something better, that's great." And here we are. We're nearing the end of August, and I guess Javonte Green and his agent couldn't find anything better because he took that minimum deal from the Pelicans. I think Pelicans had a couple players who reached out to him, said, "Hey, play for us." I think one of those guys was DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray has not put on a Pelicans uniform. Well, he's put on a Pelicans uniform, but he hasn't played a game.
He's wearing their warm-ups, that's for sure.
And he's trying to recruit guys. So it's cool. Look, I mean, this is your 15th man right now. I mean, look, I think he's got a chance to be a rotation guy. Like I had some people say to me, he's a candidate to be the guy who gets too much playing time almost. Like I think we could be sitting there in January and like, oh, Javonte Green is like the 7th man tonight. Like what the heck?
He's going to play 20
He's got some nice stuff. He can defend the multiple positions. The Pelicans are talking about playing small and fast right now. Like he fits into this idea of like, let's switch everything, force turnovers, get out and run. He could yam and transition. He's done that against the Pelicans a couple times over the years. So I think he makes sense on this roster.
He is going to be the number 1 candidate for defensive wing that gives Willie the warm and fuzzies. This is one of those things like, people criticize Willie for this and say that he goes to it too much. But when you look at like Najee and Jose last year in so many regular season games, when we've talked about it before, they went and got you out of a problem when the game starts off with no energy and starts off with no production, and then they come in and light a fire. This guy's a candidate to do a lot of the same things Najee did and fill a lot of that same role. Sometimes you need a veteran to go in there, steady the ship, and do his job. And especially if that guy is just always going to bring defensive intensity too, and can cover multiple positions. Like, yeah, he's going to, like, we're going to look at minimum contract right now and we're going to say that that's why. But if you look at him in Chicago when he did play and you look at the end of last year, like he's a rotation player. He's not a minimum contract guy. We're in a really weird market where like guy like Malik Beasley struggled to find double-digit millions anywhere and ended up taking like, I think 8 million from the Pistons. That's where we are. It was a really interesting place for a lot of vets that like just kind of ended up on the end of this thing. I think Javonte is one of those people. He ended up as like an odd man out this year.
Yeah, look, I think I've expressed that one of my concerns about this team was a strength of the team last year was this bench that had this identity. Like all these guys, Trey Murphy did provide, like, it's just rare to get an offensive player that good at coming off your bench. But for the other guys, Jose, Najee, Larry, Dyson, like these guys were coming into the game. They were going to play fast. They were going to defend. Like there was an identity there and it really worked. The Pelicans bench overall, if you look at the numbers, regular season last year was excellent. And I was worried just about the loss of that identity and a loss of just credible basketball players they can bring into the game. When, Najee, Dyson, Larry, all going out this offseason. I'm not saying Javonte Green is the savior, but like he is a guy who can, fill a little bit of that they lost. Just like bench guy, can guard multiple positions, going to bring effort on a night-to-night basis. And I think one of the most encouraging things you saw was like every Bulls fan online was like, you guys are going to love Javonte Green. Like it's always a good sign when, there's unanimously every fan is just like, you're going to love this guy. Like you're going to love having him on your team.
He gives you the Josh Hart vibes. He's going to be an effort dude. He's going to defend like crazy. He's going to get turnovers, and turnovers lead to fast break stuff, and fast break means dunks. So like you're going to see that from him. And, you know, when you don't have to question somebody's energy, that dude basically always wins over a crowd. The guys who don't quit always win over fans if they stay there for more than a year. And yeah, he's one of those dudes. And he's one of those dudes, and like another similarity to Najee, like he will be that dude that like just like casually keeps randomly coming up with 15 to 17 points. And you're like, did he really have that? And he just kind of like had a bucket here and there, had a turnover that was a dunk, had a layup, had a steal. You're like, oh, okay. We just kind of crawled our way to 13. All right, cool. He's just going to be one of those dudes. He's going to fit. It's going to work. He's a veteran player. Like it's nothing to get super, you know, psychotic about. He's not going to blow you out of the water, but he's going to fit in the rotation. He's going to do a lot of the things they need people to do and rely on.
All right, let's pivot here to Zion Williamson. Zion hosted a camp in Spartanburg, South Carolina, his hometown. It looked like a really cool event, free for the kids to come out. This became news because Zion looked really slim in the photos. There were kind of sort of quotes. There was a fella on Twitter from Timeout Sports 3, and I'll just read the tweet. Zion Williamson's stepdad told C. Ruff today at his camp he's currently 281 pounds, 285 at Duke, and will be 272 by the time the season starts. Let's go, Z. Great season loading. I would say from what we saw, that tracks. He does look pretty slim. I think this is part of an overall trend line of his commitment to conditioning, improving since the in-season tournament. Did you have like we've done so many cycles of we've seen the offseason pictures of Zion Williamson. Like, could you possibly have any reaction at this point?
Well, so when we did it, when we've done it in the past, like the thing we're spoiled off of is he has had one good offseason before, and we saw like workout pictures and stuff, and his arms were shredded and everything. That was like the one offseason that had us like really thirsty. And so then when other off seasons came along, where like you saw a workout pic, if you tilted the camera the right angle and it was like a downward lens, so you don't catch like the double chin, then you're like, oh, still looks good. No, this is not the only pictures that have come out. This is not the only video of him that has come out over the summer. We have never seen the pictures go in the alternative direction this offseason. And I'm going to say it again. Since December, we have really only seen correct moves from him since that IST game. So I'm trying not to weight the past as much as the stretch of what I'm seeing right now and what is that representative of. It feels very much like all of the recent evidence is I've locked in, I'm doing the things, and I haven't seen a Wendy's drive-through picture to make me think otherwise. So I'm going to keep going there because I want to be happy. And I'm just looking at him. 7 different pictures come out over the course of 2 months, and they all look like that. Beard, you know, included, looking like a lot of different people. We can go David Ortiz, we can go Jaylen Brown, we can go a lot of ways. But yeah, I'm just going to believe it because there are 12, 13, 14 different things that have happened since IST that say I'm doing something differently than I've ever done it before.
I have probably seen, since Zion Williamson started at Duke, I have probably seen 95% of the games he's played in. There were a handful I missed at Duke, but I was definitely captivated by what he was doing his college season. And then, you know, watching him play has like literally been my job for the last 5 years. So I do feel like I'm like one of the closest observers of Zion Williamson's career on earth. I'm just going to run through the end of Zion's high school career, the year at Duke, his Pelicans career, and where we are now, because I just think it's been a journey and so much has happened. Sometimes you can forget some of the twists and the turns. 2018, Zion Williamson is a number 2 player in his high school class, according to ESPN. He commits to Duke alongside the number 1 player, RJ Barrett. It becomes apparent right away that Zion is Duke's best player. I mean, he's not only Duke's best player, he's the best player in the entire country. He has one of the best college seasons we've ever seen. February 2019, Zion Williamson blows out his shoe in a game against North Carolina. This causes him to miss a few weeks. At this point, it's a lock that he's going to be the number 1 pick. He doesn't have to play again He chooses to play in his first game back, 29 points, 13 of 13 shooting against Syracuse. He does this post-game interview where he talks about wanting to play because he loves the game of basketball. He wants to be there for his teammates. The Zion stock was almost never higher than it was in that moment. Like, I just remember it so clear. Like, everyone on NBA Twitter, everyone in America was like, great kid, incredible competitor. The stock could not have been higher. June 2019, he becomes the number one pick. He says, "Let's dance, Pelicans fans." He is a household name at this point. He shows up to Summer League in July, and I think this is the first indication we got that, hey, look, there are blemishes here. He's definitely not perfect. He is clearly heavy. Coach Mike Krzyzewski does an interview with Forbes where he goes on the record and says that Zion shouldn't even been playing because he's not in the proper shape. Zion, he plays a handful of minutes basically in summer league. Right before his rookie year in his preseason, hurts his meniscus and his left knee. Supposed to miss 6 to 8 weeks. He ends up missing 3 months. He makes his debut against the San Antonio Spurs. He's pulled, even though he's having this incredible game. And I think this is where a lot of the tension with the medical staff really intensified. Zion's second season, Alvin Gentry is out. Stan Van Gundy is in. We get point Zion. He is absolutely incredible. 27 points on 62% shooting. Makes the All-Star game. Is available. Plays in 61 of 72 games, even though he's clearly like kind of heavy. And he's very frustrated after the season. He has this great season, but the Pelicans don't even make the play-in tournament. And he basically says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Zion's third season, lost entirely to a broken right foot. We still don't know exactly when the injury occurred. Griffin, Zion both say he'll be ready for the first game. Zion misses the entire season. I don't know that this has ever happened in NBA history where a GM and a coach say he'll be ready for the first game and he misses the entire season, but that's what happened. The Pelicans have this horrible start. They end up making the play-in tournament. They're this really feel-good story, and they basically are so competitive that Zion sees this. He spent part of the season in Portland rehabbing and decides, like, I want to be part of this. They've showed me enough that I want to be part of this. Somewhere between Zion's third and fourth season, this is kiss and make up time. Zion and Lee Anderson, his stepfather, host a camp at Dryad's YMCA. I looked at it as a show of good faith that, hey, look, I'm committed to the city after a lot of weird stuff happened. Zion gets a deal, more than $200 million. He's played 85 games at this point. Zion's fourth season, he shows up looking great. He is a lean, mean fighting machine. The Pelicans beat the Suns twice in a row at home earlier in the season. First in the West, brother. The 360 windmill dunk of death. And then things start to go south. The first game of 2023, Zion hurts his right hamstring. It looks like he's going to be back before the start of the All-Star break. He re-injures the hamstring. He doesn't play at all. It's really disappointing. That summer, there was the Mariah Mills stuff. I'll just leave it at that. Go look up the New York Post articles. We all know what happened. Zion's fifth season, he shows up in a bad mood. He's not talking very much. He's clearly angry. He's not in good shape. In the in-season tournament, old man LeBron runs circles around him, and this appears to be a wake-up moment. Ever since then, Zion's conditioning, his attitude has been better, and all of that brings us to year 6, where, Adam, I think Zion Williamson is actually in a pretty good place.
He's turning the corner. Look, I hated all of that and did not want to relive it. And it just bubbles up a resentment that I have to OKC for not having to feel any of that, because they're the ones that I like just want to share some of that pain with. They're
OKC is like that girl that you've always eyed across the room, and it just never happened, and you just bring them up too much in conversation.
There was like a season where I'm like, this is the one where they're not good enough yet, and it's that one more season where they don't make the playoffs, and we're like, we finally get to question the plan. No, we don't. We don't question anything. No one's actually hurt. Everybody that goes there temporarily magically gets healed and then sold off for better things and has this glowing stuff to say about them. Look, I'm going to take that, what you just said, as therapy, and I'm going to let it go. I'm gonna
We
let
have been on a
Zion's 5
journey.
years go. I'm gonna let it go, and I'm gonna live in this year. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. I mean, look, no one could have even possibly predicted how weird this has all been. I don't think the basketball public really saw any of the downside, including me. Like I was like, look, there's just like Zion to the moon. Like I'm strapping myself to this rocket ship, and there was stuff there. I just wonder what he becomes over the next 5 years. Like to me, it seems like, look, I think he was a kid when he came into the NBA, and I think that's understandable in some respects. Like I was definitely, not like a functioning adult until I don't know my mid like early to mid 20s. Like I think a lot of us are like that. But it's the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. And I don't know if he got that at first. It seems like he might be starting to get that lately. Like I know I've talked about this a lot, but like it felt like a kind of significant thing to me when he's just showing up to the DeJounte Murray presser. Like I know he spends a lot of the summer in New Orleans, but for him to come to the facility, like show his support for DeJounte, like that to me is like, oh, I think maybe he might be starting to get a little bit of just like, I am the face of this franchise. And what I say and do, it sets the example for everything else, for better, for worse.
Yeah, look, I'll do this as many times as we want before the season starts until he gives me reason not to. It's every little thing. We saw it starting on the court, before he gets injured again and misses the playoffs. You saw his game change. You saw him committed on defense. You saw major rebounds that you needed. You saw him take his revenge in the game he gets hurt. You saw him take his IST revenge against some of the best players in the world. You saw it on the court, then you see him get hurt. And in the past, when we see him get hurt, he gets reclusive, he pulls away, he may disappear. And instead, he's on the bench. Amy Atmore's sitting right next to him. He's smiling, he's talking to guys. When they get eliminated, he's at the tunnel waiting for the guys, shakes every one of their hands. I know I've brought this up like 800 times at this point. Those are major, major things when you've never seen any of it before. Add to that the pictures from this offseason and everything we're hearing are good. It's all I can ask for at this point. It's all I can hope for at this point. So, I'm snorting that thing like a crushed up narcotic.
There's a good photo in one of the Times Picayune's photographers got it of after the Pelicans were eliminated by the Thunder in New Orleans in Game 4. Zion kind of dapping up Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy looks all disappointed, and Zion's like, "Hey, I got you, man." And this just felt really different. I think part of the interview he did in South Carolina, he said, "Hey, who are your favorite teammates?" And he said CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy, which I appreciated too. I think those guys are really good teammates.
Yeah, throw that stuff together. Throw in the DeJounte thing. It's just like we just have a lot of mounting evidence that notably, and we've talked about this as well, that came after immense public shaming, which that seems to work. So if we ever need something, like call somebody at ESPN and get them to blast him, because that apparently works. Public accountability from big time names seems to help. Yeah, it's going in a positive direction.
What are you expecting from him in year 6? Like, what do you actually think he's capable of? Like, I think we both feel like there is a scenario where he is just so good where they can kind of transcend their weird roster.
The pieces parts, yes.
Especially in the regular season. Like
yes.
In the playoffs, look, I think they're just gonna have to probably make some changes if they want to like be a team that goes to the Western Conference Finals or anything, unless they catch a lot of breaks. But like I think they could be a team that like wins 50 games if we just get all NBA Zion.
He's the greatest gravitational force in the NBA, not named Giannis Antetokounmpo. And if he gets a full season of being that force, as we've seen him get more comfortable on the ball, we've also seen him be very, very quick in his decision making. We've seen him last year. We saw at the end, he started to problem solve. We saw him start to take the ball at guys in different ways, different launch points, different acceleration points. We saw him finding different ways to get to the basket, solving problems against really, really difficult players. if you get that guy, yeah, it can paint over a lot of stuff. It can definitely paint over roster problems. And I think, that you're counting on that if you don't have a starting center. Schematically, you do have centers that will stand on the outside and at least be out of his way. And that is something. It is, there's going to be a landing strip there, and he's going to pull 4 defenders. So if guys can knock down open shots, if DeJounte can create anything while he is out there on the floor with him, look, that's more than we've had. So, rotation stuff is going to be weird. We're going to have some weird stuff, but I am expecting, there's fan me and then there's rational brain. Like my very analytical, rational self is trying to like tell myself, 62 to 65 games, I hope, and averages like 26 and 5. But realistically, if he reaches the peak of his powers for any length of time, the dude should be in MVP voting. He should be in all NBA first team conversation. That is what he has the ability to do. And we finally saw the defense start to come last year. Like we saw blips of the thing that we had written off. We had decided was gone. That was a thing we weren't talking about anymore. It was just about he can score on anybody no matter how you defend him. He defended too. If that's the guy I get, I mean, anything's possible. I think the way the story would work out is you hope he paints over the first half of the season till you find rotation solutions for the back end of the season. Then you go into the playoffs with the ideal 8 and 9 man rotation. And his force is so difficult to deal with in the playoffs that no one can ever throw defense like OKC did at you ever again.
We need him to get playoff experience this year. I can't do the Zion hasn't played in a playoff game storyline after this year. Like, let it die. Please, God. Like, we need him in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, we do. It's just too many years of what if next year. We can't do another what if next year. This is it. It's coalescing. He's doing the right things. We're getting some guys. I would have really loved it if we did that one more move. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But hey, if the Cleveland Cavaliers can lose 2 of their starters for different periods of time and, still get all the way through the year and everything, we'll figure it out. We will hopefully be good at my only concern for the record of the season is really like the first 10 to 20 games. We're going to year thankfully with the easier part of our schedule. And we need that because I don't want us to dig the hole that we are very, very famous for digging and have the roster and rotation problems that we need to solve. If we can get out ahead of this thing, then all of a sudden that problem doesn't feel so seismic. And then all of a sudden you're leaning more towards, hey, when they fix this, they're going to be even better than they are. And like you said, like we can talk about all the people. We can talk about DeJounte. We can talk about BI maybe getting forced into more of the role we've always wanted for him. It all comes down to Zion. We say it all the time. He is who raises the tide to bring all the boats up. It's him. He plays 65 to 70 games the way that we saw him finish the year last year. And we're talking about this guy nightly for highlights and domination and MVP candidacy. And he's leading ESPN. And we're getting angry about what ESPN commentators are saying about the city and the market. That's where we want to be. We want them to be having to talk about us.
All right, let's move on to this draft. This is a 25 and under draft. I'll go over the rules real quickly. Obviously, you have to be 25 or younger. Any player on earth who fits that criteria, 25 or younger today. Adam, if you want to take Dyson Daniels' little brother, Dash, that's all you, brother. If you want to build out your guard depth that way, we are each going to draft 7 players. We are going to pretend our teams are going to play each other 3 different times. Once today, once in 3 years, and once in 5 years. This is not we're taking a team and just like relying on these guys as franchise players. Like we're going to play 3 games against each other over a period of 5 years. So like whose team is better right now, whose team will be better in 5 years, whose team will be better kind of halfway between that point. And the winning GM, Adam, I don't know if you know this, they're going to get the losing GM's car. So there's pretty big stakes on the line here.
You're really excited about my VW Atlas, huh?
That's right.
You're hoping to come up in the world by the time that bet pays.
Yeah, I hope you're driving a Tesla by the time that bet pays.
Hey, if they're still in business by then.
So look, you need these teams to fit together. Like you're not just amassing talent, as I said earlier, like kind of like the Pelicans have done. You can't draft all centers or all guards. You can, but you probably
we're
lose.
Gonna punish you. Yeah.
And Adam, I am going to be a nice guy. I'm going to give you the first pick. This is not a snake draft. This is just you go, I go, you go, I go. I'm giving you the number 1 pick. Is this an obvious selection or is this not an obvious selection?
I mean, I could easily make it a conversation about multiple people. I could easily, we're talking about team construction here though, and we're talking about a specific set of people. We have to put together skill sets. We have to put together advantage creation that makes sense on a basketball floor. So if we look at current production and current stature in the game and everything, I can make an argument for 3 different people that, I feel like I could make a winning argument about, but I only want one of them. And it is it's the hype monster. It's the guy that everybody is talking about right now. It's the guy that just, got his team to the finals of the Olympics against the US. It's the freak. It's the alien, Victor Wembanyama. I am going to get my center, my all-world transforming, game transforming, paint transforming center that can shoot it, dribble it, pull up on you the whole 9 and block anything from 15 feet in and make you have to deal with that. And I will give myself the freedom of roster creation that he gives me.
Okay. Like I thought it was a discussion between Victor Wembanyama and Luka Doncic for number 1. I think Luka is clearly a better player right now, and right now matters because that's 1/3 of the games that our hypothetical teams are going to be playing each other in. Did you feel like there was a third guy, or was it just those 2 guys in your mind?
So I feel like I could make an argument. It'd be a little bit more complicated of an argument, but I feel like I could make an argument for Shea being the most like he fills through, like much like Victor on the paint side, in the guard wing side. What? Is he too old?
He turned 26 years old in July.
Well, I pulled his age from the NBA database for last season. So there you go. Pull him out. So yeah, it's a 2-guy race. There you go.
Okay.
It's 2-guy race. It's Victor and Luka.
See, that's why I was following up, because Shea is not in our player pool, which is on the outline.
The player pool is on the outline?
I didn't know if maybe you were thinking about Ja Morant or someone like that, or just someone I hadn't thought about.
Nobody completely off the board. I went and pulled a set of stats from NBA, pulled by age. So, all right. Yep. Pull Shea out of here. It was just a debate between Luka and Vic. I'm taking Vic, and it's, I'm sure, I know that where that might send you in terms of what you're going to do with your center. And you may think you need to wait. You may think you can wait now. You keep your eye on that. I picked a big. You may not. Be on your toes.
I think I do know what you're going to do. I mean, you have a thunder boner. I mean, I think that's clear.
What? I don't think that's the case at all.
See,
maybe I'm just trying to psych you out. This is drafting. Maybe I need to get you a little nervous,
I feel like I'm in an impossible position here because I should take Luka, but if I take Luka, that would allow you to take Chet. And like, how do you score on a Chet Holmgren, Victor Wembanyama team? And you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm still going to take Luka Doncic. I will let you form the Twin Towers. I'm just going to take the best player on this entire board, a guy who just got his team to the finals, a guy who averaged 34 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists last year. Numbers that don't even feel real. Luka Doncic is a magician. I think anywhere from like the second to the fourth or fifth best player in the entire NBA, depending on how you want to argue it. I do worry about the conditioning sometimes, but look, I mean, just a basketball genius, the ability to shoot it off the dribble from 35 feet that stretches the defense, a great lob thrower. Going with him at the number 2 pick.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I was really just trying to get you to pull a trigger on Chet, and that's what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to panic a little bit, and yeah, I'm not actually. I'm torn. I'm so torn now because it does sound enticing to get the front court of the future together. Chet does a lot of stuff on the ball, can pull up and stuff, and Wemby does enough of it that you're like, whoa, anything that goes inside of 20 feet is gonna have problems, and they're gonna switch stuff and survive. But is there really, in this pool of players, is there enough real top end star scoring talent to just go to Chet now? And unfortunately, I don't think there is. So I'm not ready to go Chet and just do that. I really just kind of wanted to force you to take Chet. I'm glad you thought about it. I'm sad you didn't do it. I'm going Anthony Edwards. I'm going to get myself the to counter your Luka, my right now wing scorer, take over a game, can really defend his ass off when he locks in. I'm just going to get the best star player on the board to go next to Wemby, take all the offensive pressure away, guy I can give the ball to. I'm going to build a little traditional. I'm not going Twin Towers. I just tried to psych you out.
I think you changed your opinion after I said
Believe
you had a thunder
what you
boner.
may. Believe what you may.
I think you changed what you're going to say after I said you had a thunder boner. You got
Sure.
all red in the face.
Yeah.
Got embarrassed. You tucked it into your waistband. Look, Anthony Edwards.
You got to be careful of that sometimes.
Being in the Team USA rotation at 23 years old and winning gold, that said something to me. Like, guy's just a stud. I mean, he thinks he's the man, but he can also just fit too alongside a lot of other great players by picking up, 90 feet from the hoop. I'm going to get to the rim. I'm going to play really hard. He gets along with everybody. He's got, just this great personality. So I love Anthony Edwards. I'm a huge fan. I would love to root for him because he got that dog in him. I think he's mostly about the right stuff. He's still got some stuff to work on.
He's just fun too. He's incredibly and dangerously authentic.
Yeah. I think people are so the internet makes people so self-conscious, and one of his superpowers is he doesn't even know what self-conscious means. I mean, it's just his world, and it's a superpower for him that he has zero self-consciousness. He doesn't think he could fail. He for sure thinks he can score 11 points against Olympian ping pong players. I mean, it just never occurred to him that he could fail, and it works for him. Okay. You've got Wemby and Anthony Edwards. I have got Luka Doncic. I've got a critical number 2 pick here. Okay. I think I am going to go with Chet Holmgren. I got my 1, if that's what you consider Luka. I'm going to go and get my 5 right now. In almost any non-Wemby season, Chet Holmgren is winning Rookie of the Year. Playing 5 out is a freaking cheat code, as we've covered so many times on this podcast. Chet Holmgren can finish Luka's lobs. He can stretch you out and create driving lanes for some of the players I'm going to fill in around these guys. But I'm just going to address my 1 of 5 spots with my first 2 picks and go with Chet here.
I think it makes sense. I think we both addressed the same thing. So our builds have started similarly. We have similarly modeled players, although your star is more true point guard and more creator, and mine is more elite combo guy. All right. Moving into my third, and I'm going to talk these out because I think that's the fun part, right? Is like talking about who you're deciding between. So I have some options here. I could get the true like point guard, run the play, initiator guy, or I could add more dynamism. And that dynamism could come in a couple of different ways, but I'm trying to create differences on a basketball floor. I am trying to create problems for defenses. And if I'm looking at this list, the two guys I think cause the most problems when added to my team, which I think has adequate defense already. I think I'm looking at Paolo and Zion. I think I'm looking at two big offensive forces that can create, that can take it to the hole when they need to. Paolo, I get more defense. I get the switchability. Putting him as a creator next to Wemby, like that's just who knows what the possibilities are. Oh, and then Ant's just out there being the guy who takes those catch and shoot threes, which is crazy. And Paolo, no problem creating. But part of Paolo's upside is that defensive versatility, and I feel like my bases are covered a little bit on defense with Vic and with Ant. So I'm going to go more fun. I'm going to pander to our fans a little bit here, and I'm going Zion Williamson. I'm going to put Zion and Wemby together. I'm going to put just an insane fit for Zion. I'm going to give Zion his dream. I'm going to give him the center that erases the world and stays the hell out of his way. And I'm putting those two with Anthony Edwards. Stop me.
I'm kind of sick right now because
I dare you.
I'm not feeling good. Look, I think the fact that our Team Clark and Team McCreer are only playing 3 games, like Zion becomes a much more valuable player in that environment because it's not like, hey, look, we're built, like we don't need you to play in 79 of 82 games. We just need you to be ready for this game that's in 2 weeks. 3 years and 5 years from now.
You're playing for the fate of the earth. 1 game to end it all, but 3 times.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, Zion can get it in 1 game. Look, Anthony Edwards and Zion just makes you terrifying from an athleticism standpoint. I would have taken Zion with my number 3 pick. God, I'm really nervous now, and I don't know what to do. Man. I mean, Zion and Chet too. I mean, Zion and Wembanyama, but like,
yeah.
Wish I could have put
either of those guys.
Together.
You give him the actual spacing center that we're talking about, like the rim protecting shooter. Actually, give him like one of those true guys. Both of those dudes are those guys.
Yeah. Look, I hear you. Okay. I'm gonna go with the wing with my next pick. I'm gonna go. I think with somebody who could play a little 3, play a little 4. We could do different things with him. I'm going to go with Jalen Williams here.
Yeah, I got the Thunder boner. Okay.
Jalen Williams is a stud. I think I said last year during the playoff series against the Thunder, he has a case as the single most underrated NBA player just among the general fans, just because he's so young. He just started doing this. I think people know about Shea. I mean, Jalen Williams is an absolute freaking stud. I mean, put the ball in his hands, it'll create. He doesn't shoot a ton of threes, but he's very accurate. He's just smart. I mean, really smart player who can make quick decisions. So I'm going with Jalen Williams, I guess, my 3rd pick. I feel like there's a lot of different things I can do, but I don't need a guard here. Like, I got Luka to handle all that. I think Jalen Williams can play the 4 next to Chet some. I think it's fine if you slide him in at the 3. So I'm putting him in here.
We're going to start offending some people pretty soon looking at this list and what creating a team that's supposed to play basketball, what it's going to do to a few of these names and where they're going to get pushed to. We're going to offend some people. I'm looking at one name in particular, and I'm like, if I don't take him here, I think he's going to drop a little bit and people are going to be mad about it. All right. So It
And
is,
keep in mind, we're drafting 7 players. So
yeah,
you gotta fill 2 bench slots.
yeah, 2 bench slots, complementary positions. All right. So I've got my front court, and I've got a dynamic combo guard wing. Gives me defense, gives me a little bit of creation, mostly just gives me psycho athleticism and dynamic ISO play. I could use some table setting. I could also use more like true perimeter spacing guy. I don't really want to go crazy into guys that are, a lot of these guys that we have on this list, and I think this is where the trouble is going to come. A lot of these guys are guys that like to. This is why I think Jalen Williams is a good pick. A lot of these guys are dudes that have the ball in their hands a lot, and that's something to think about. But you know who I've seen thrive in a couple of different scenarios? I want my usage to stay with the 3 guys that I picked. So when I look at guys like Trae Young and Ja as like these like truly dynamic scoring point guards, I kind of want the ball to stay more in my guys' hands. My debate here entirely comes down to Ja Morant or actually Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese grew up a lot last year and was put in a position to be the like consummate attacker with or without Embiid in the lineup, and he just came through. And it's between those two. I think Ja has proven like he's the throwback point guard that can create for other guys. I think the pick and roll stuff with Wembanyama would be silly. Tyrese, less usage, and I can leave the ball in the other guy's hands. This is hard. This is really, really tough. And I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm going to do this for my boy A-Bear. I'm taking Tyrese Maxey.
Dallas's own Tyrese Maxey.
The guy that this is the guy I will give A-Bear credit for forever. As soon as he saw that draft, he's like, yeah, I watch Maxey. That's who I want. I don't want anybody else. I don't want to talk about anybody else. Get me Maxey. And he's right.
I love Maxey. I mean, his spirit. He seems like such a positive person. He's a stud. Like what he did in some of those playoff games against the Knicks was just ridiculous for such a young guy. Like he's been in some really adverse situations of like being a backup and the Ben Simmons stuff, and Philly fans are really harsh, and he's handled it all so well. Like he's handled a lot of difficult stuff thrown his way extremely well. I think that's interesting. I think you could have gone with maybe even more of like a table setter there because you have so much offensive talent. Like I kind of wondered if you're going to just take Halliburton there just as more of the pure,
we'll talk about him in a second.
Pass first kind of guy. But look, I think it's a good pick, and I think I've got go ahead.
I really wanted the perimeter shooting, and I wanted the consistent perimeter shooting and the guy that could pull up on you in transition. Like I wanted the real spacing at volume. And I think that's still a question mark with Halliburton. I think that is still like, as much as he's a table setter, I think, if I'm trying to put these athletic gifts in their correct spaces and slots with the right usage, I think I want that perimeter, that transition attack, and that guy that's had the versatility of being more on ball and off ball. He's been both, and both successfully. So yeah, that was it. But yeah, Halliburton, totally get it. True table setter. That's the main reason I thought about Ja. I was looking at Ja even beyond Halliburton. Just, I'm worried about the jumper with Halliburton. I always have been, because it's the funkiest looking thing in the world. I think he's gonna be fine. I think it's exaggerated how bad it got last year. But yeah, I think last year we started the year with the hypothesis that he was going to be like a top 10 guy. People said that. And I don't think that's I don't think he's that far below that, but I don't think he's a top 10 guy.
You're worried about his jumper?
Mm-hmm.
He's played in the NBA for what? 6 years now. I can pull up his basketball reference page. 39% from 3 on more than 6 attempts a game. That's across a 6-year sample size there.
And how funky is that shot? And what happened last year? That's it may be smaller sample and everything. It's one of those things. It was a concern for me coming out of college. And I just wonder, we've had dudes that have been able to shoot before that fell to earth a little bit or lost their shot entirely. And I have a little bit of heebie-jeebies when he has this really, really rough stretch last year. And there was injury and he did like this. I may be completely wrong. He may just have rushed back from the injury, been hurt the whole time. That's what threw everything off. But we can't really argue that jump shot is ugly. Like, it is ugly.
Yeah, it is.
So,
it goes in, and he can shoot it off the
yeah.
dribble, and he can shoot, catch, and shoots. I mean, I think there are concerns about Halliburton. Like, he's pretty thin. He's a bad defender at times. I mean, he gives up a lot in that end, but he
And we're
makes
splitting
players better,
hairs.
and he's just made threes over like a 6-year span.
We're
to the point.
splitting hairs. We're talking about the choice between
Yeah.
him and Maxey. And
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm going
Okay.
that route with less usage.
All right. This is where I feel like it gets difficult for me because Chet can be, I mean, like he can be kind of a 4/5. He was a 5 almost exclusively for the Thunder last year, but then they went and got Isaiah Hartenstein this offseason, and I think Chet is going to play a little bit more forward. I think there's this question of like clearly we saw that you can have a very, very good team with Chet Holmgren as your full-time starting 5. And I know that because the Thunder were the number 1 team in the West last year, and they played a very competitive series against Mavericks, who ended up going to the finals. I know you can be an excellent team with Chet at the 5. I also think the Thunder are sitting there thinking like, well, we'd like to have that option, but we also, want a full-time 5. So I guess my question here is, do I take another big? I've got Jalen Williams, who could play the 3 or the 4. I think I do have to take another big. And to me, I look at it comes down to Evan Mobley and Jaren Jackson Jr. I think I'm going with Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, a guy who won Defensive Player of the Year, playing power forward. No, he's not the best rebounder or anything like that, but like shot blocking monster, at the power forward position, a guy who could space the floor. I want shooting, a bunch of shooting around Luka, like guys feasting off those looks. And I think I'm rolling with a starting front court of Jaren Jackson Jr. and Chet Holmgren.
I get it. I think I get the Defensive Player of the Year. Jaren's a guy I still have a ton of questions about. I think when you look at him, I wonder if you didn't create a little bit of the same problem for yourself, that like, is he actually a center? Who's putting their back to the basket with that duo? My own question. That's just me.
He also had
of
a down year shooting the 3 last year. He's like 32% from 3 last year.
Talk about another ugly jumper that shouldn't go in that went in prior.
Yeah.
All right. And see, I was looking ahead, and that's why I just kind of no question went Wemby, because I was like, I don't want to have those problems later.
So we've each taken 4 players. I've got Luka, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Jaren Jackson Jr. Adam has Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, Zion Williamson, and Tyrese Maxey.
All right. So I have got 4 of my 5. I have got my front court is settled. I'm going to have Maxey on the ball. Here's the debate. I have Maxey spacing. I currently have Anthony Edwards could be, my 2 or my 3. I want Zion to have a good bit of the ball and to be able to drive the ball and score and initiate some himself, which creates a little bit of a confluence of issues with me to take like a Paolo, because I want Paolo to also have the ball and distribute and create and be special. So
I know what you're going to do.
I think I'm going to make Tyrese Maxey my shooting guard. I think I'm going to add John Morant. I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to put John and Zion together. I'm going to give them a psycho center with Maxey and Edwards hanging out on the perimeter attacking space. This is fun.
It's a really good pick. It's a really good pick. I mean, I would not be shocked if Ja Morant
South
finishes
Carolina stand up.
I would not be shocked if Ja finishes top 5 in MVP voting this year because he's going to have kind of the narrative stuff. I think there's a good enough team around him to where the Grizzlies they have a very good chance to be a 50-plus win team again. I just wouldn't be shocked at all if they're like, oh, Ja Morant, dark horse MVP guy. You guys forgot about Ja, even though the reason you kind of forgot about him was, I mean, entirely his fault. But he's electrifying. He's awesome. He's already proven he can, be a winner in the NBA. I mean, I love him as a player. I can't wait to go to Memphis on Black Friday and see Pelicans versus Grizzlies. It's gonna be fun.
All right. So my starting 5 is locked in. So now how are you going to round out your 5?
Oh man, this is tough.
So you've got really 2 bigs, a do-all, and the guy who makes people say heliocentric too much.
You're right. You're right. You know what I'm going to do here? I'm kind of going for a fit piece to complete my starting 5 here. I'm going to take Jalen Suggs to complete my starting 5 here. I think, 6'4", like, a little bit short to like maybe be a 2, but like he's playing next to Luka. Luka is 6'7". It doesn't matter. I'm already big. I want a guy who's just going to fit here. I want a guy, incredible point of attack defender, guy who shot the ball from 3 really well last year. And I think a big part of the Magic taking a huge step. Is that too high? Am I over exuberant on Jalen Suggs there? Your mic's muted.
That's because my son is crying in the background and I am trying to subdue it. I don't think it's, I think when you get here and you're trying to make things fit on the basketball court, I get it. You have now picked 2 guys in your starting 5 that are, more that are going to be more bystander secondary guys. So you're going to have like some good ball flow. There's at least that. I think you're going to get mad when Jaren Jackson decides to take a pull-up 3. I think you're going to have to debate that. So, I think Suggs came a long way from the prior year to last year. I think he is, he's an incredible defender, like one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Very, very clearly, when he's getting you, he can get you a bunch of steals in a game and really turn it for you that way. But what you really need from him, what Orlando has needed from him to win games, is to make threes. And that has been something that, while it's gotten better, is still not something you can completely count on. And you're not getting much else on the initiation side, creation side from him. If he gets pinned down, he's got to give the ball up. It's, I think in that way, like, I get it. I can argue it in both directions. I think you can say that he fits. And so you can argue it that way. I would say between him and Jalen that maybe you've left too much talent out here for me. Because now I'm looking at my bench. I get to fill out my bench. And you know who's still here? I'm still looking at one Tyrese Halliburton and another Paolo Banchero. And you've got the large and in charge different model bigs. You've got 2 of them. You've got some trees down there. And I'm going to counter that by just putting more pressure and creation in their face. I'm going to add Paolo Banchero. I'm going to get a 2-way forward that can table set himself from dynamic areas, that can run a disgusting pick and roll with Zion or with Wemby, and whose jumper is getting better. He's really, like, I think Paolo's on a trajectory we all like, where the defense was already there, the creation was already there, and the scoring is coming. And he's made some big time down the stretch shots in big moments for his team.
I like it. Look, I mean, I don't know if Pelicans fans are going to love this, but the Pelicans played the Magic twice late in the regular season last year. And I thought just only in those head-to-head matchups, I watched both of them in person. I was like, Paolo looked better than Zion in both of these games. I mean, I have tremendous amount of respect for him. And I loved him coming into the draft. You know, I said when the Jabari Smith Jr. stuff was going on, I was like, no, Paulo Banchero is the number one pick. Like I watched him play in Duke in person. He's huge. He can pass. Like he's not the most accurate jump shooter at this stage, but he's willing to take them and he can make them sometimes. He's very, very good. He's a tank, man. He's huge. Like for a guy that big to be able to put the ball on the floor like he can is really special to me. Like he's like 6'10", 250.
All right. So I'm 6 in. You've got a fitting 5. And we're staring down the likes of Şengün, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Trae Young, the aforementioned Tyrese Halliburton. Is this a slam dunk, no doubter, got to take the highest talent on the board? Or is there an auxiliary, a complementary concern you have in your 7?
Yeah, I'm worried about creation when Luka has to go to the bench, right? Jalen Williams can take on some of that, I think. But I am a little bit worried about like, all right, how are we going to score at the high level when Luka Doncic has to go to the bench? I'm going to take Tyrese Halliburton here. I feel really comfortable, plugging him in there. He could play with any of the players in my starting 5. A guy who was kind of the quarterback of this crazy efficient offense that also was a 5-out offense in Indiana. I think it's ridiculous that you have questions about Tyrese Maxey's jump shot. I know it looks weird. I'm sorry, Tyrese Halliburton's jump shot. I know it looks weird, but there is a long track record of it just going in.
Yeah, no, I just, it's one of those things where when your body chain for your jumper, when it's already weird and you've made it work, if something starts to consistently go wrong in that, you may like lose yourself and you almost like some guys like get the yips. Like Russell Westbrook used to be able to shoot a little bit. Draymond Green used to be able to shoot a little bit. Both of them became never shooters. And that phenomenon is what's playing in the back of my head. And again, was splitting hairs between him and Maxey. And now I'm going for like a different thing where I was like, I have a kind of a weird front court. Let me get another person specifically to put pressure on the guys that you picked. So I leaned that way. I could have gone Tyrese there. I could have gone Halliburton there. But like I'm not worried about him like not being a top 25 player. Like I'm not worried about him like not being a top 3 true point guard in the league. It's just people got really, really, really high on him last year. And then we saw him be human for a really, really long stretch of basketball. Whereas like, the ceiling of this may not just keep going up. We may have a plateau here. And yeah, and then I just have like the little thing in the back of my head, like, what if the wheels fall off on the jumper and he settles more into, because he's a natural creator. Like it's what he does. That is where he leans.
His processing is just like ridiculous. Like how he sees the game and can make the play, like diagnose the play and then make the play like in 0.001 seconds. That's what I love about him. I will maintain that processing, reading the game is an underrated skill. Like being able to make good, accurate, quick decisions is an underrated skill.
All right. So I think I am going to give your front court hell already. I think I am going to give your roamers and your skinny Abraham Lincoln resembling fella some real physical problems around the rim already. So I think I am going to move away from the bigs here.
Okay.
I have got my asshole point guard table setter in Ja, my pick and roll maestro. I've got auxiliary playmaking in Tyrese and Ant. I've got Ant and Zion both soaking up secondary initiation. Feeling good about that. So I have a list of people here I could look at that, could be Cade, Scotty, you took Evan Mobley, so it's Cade, Scotty, Trae Young, Franz, Herb, Trae. And I'm going to go for somebody that I actually thought was somebody I didn't love, that I didn't think was going to turn out super well. I think I need one of those guys that just plays well in the spot he is and just has a little bit of everything and might just have like some Paul George potential, where he has just like this all around game that works, even though he plays for a completely aimless comedy of a franchise. I am just going to empty the clip here, if you might say, and add Brandon Miller. So Brandon Miller is going to give me that kind of gluey wing. I think I could have gone Franz here and had like been a little bit bigger, but I like the way I deal with your bigs already. So I'm going to slide it more to the wing and try and hit on that complementary all around game.
Okay. I like it. I'm going to go wing here with my last pick. I like Franz Wagner a lot as a player. The way he shot the three last year was a little bit concerning to me. I just want a shooter who can play with anybody. I'm going with Trey Murphy here. Like Luka Doncic, Trey Murphy, you're going to eat all day. I've said forever, Trey Murphy can play with anybody. I'm adding him as my seventh guy here. It's a big ask. This is a big spot. We are trying to take Adams VW, Trey Murphy. We're trying to take it. There's a lot on the line here, man. I need you to deliver.
Got to watch out. It's a cross sport, baby. Got a serious subscription. Got really nice floor mats in there.
You're going to be listening to so much Call Her Daddy in that VW.
The seats have AC in them. You're not ready. All right. Look, I get it. We're both trying to solve basketball problems at this point. I think, we mentioned the other names.
Let me read them. Let me read them real quick. Yeah. All right. My full team
off the table.
My full team: Luka Doncic, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Suggs, and then I got Tyrese Halliburton and Trey Murphy as bench players. Adam has Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, Zion Williamson, Tyrese Maxey, John Morant, Paolo Banchero, and Brandon Miller. When I just read that, I'm like, you just have a lot more basketball talent than me. But I have the best player.
Maybe you do. Maybe you do right now.
Who's better than Luka Doncic on your team?
Maybe you do right now. You said we play now, and we play in 3 years, and we play in 5 years. And if you want to say, like, unquestionably that Luka will remain the best player for 2 of those 3 games, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say that I create such a disgusting advantage at a position where there was some scarcity of skill that my talent, my cream rises to the top and beats you 2 out of 3. That's the angle here.
Are you worried about a backcourt of John Morant and Tyrese Maxey being a little bit too small, getting picked on?
I mean,
Ant's the 3 in your starting 5. And you can mix and match.
You're bringing Luka. Like, here's the thing. So when you have Luka out there, like, okay, you target Ja, you get past Ja, no matter what, you get past Ja, you're running into Wemby. So I'm erasing everything around the rim for like 12 feet. And he's pirouetting and he's backhand blocking you. He's just taking away the airspace. So you're staying out on the perimeter, which is not exactly a problem for Ja and Tyrese. Hanging out on the perimeter, just defending the 3-point line and kind of passing the buck by design, I think kind of suits their skill set. Oh, and I have Anthony Edwards to throw at you as a secondary defender on your way to Wemby. Like, I feel pretty solid about it. I do.
You should feel good. I mean, it's a nice security blanket. The guy who led the NBA in blocks as a rookie and literally could be the greatest defensive player of all time, like the greatest defensive player we've seen since like Bill Russell.
And I feel pretty good about all 3 of those 3 windows, those 3 games. I think he's going to show up in all of them. I think you really let me off the hook by saying that Ja's going to make it because it's a one, or that Zion's going to make it because it's a 1 game. I think the thing to question with me is, would 2 of my guys show up for the game? 2 of my guys going to make it onto the floor is an adequate question if I'm putting Ja and Zion out there at the same time. They both get hurt a lot. So maybe they miss the game. Maybe they get distracted by things off the court. That is the problem for me.
Has that ever happened before in the first 5 years of their careers?
Never, to neither of them ever. They don't fight teenagers or break parts of their bodies and not disclose it, or order ice cream in the middle of the night at a hotel. None of those things happen. My team's good to go. We're bringing it home. We're bringing home the ship. I don't even remember what you drive off the top of my head right now, but I'm taking your ride.
All right. We will throw a graphic up on the From the Wing Twitter account. We'll throw it up on social media of the teams we picked. We'll let you guys decide who got the better team. I think the From the Wing heads are going to pick Team McCreary. I mean, you just have more basketball talent, even though. I mean, this is like a good.
He's admitting defeat already.
This is a good. Fun. Yeah, but I'm not saying like you would actually win. I'm saying I think the fans think you'll win. But maybe this is a psyop too. So I don't even know.
You mean
this is a good like
psyop I ran on you.
This is a good test of like fit versus talent. I think I got the team that fits a little bit better, but you have the more talented team, and sometimes it goes to the team that fits better, and sometimes look, the talent is just overwhelming.
And how much better do they fit?
All right, Adam. That is all that I've got for today. Training camp is a little more than a month away. We've got a lot of exciting things in store. We've been doing the show for more than 2 years now. I'm pumped to go into year 3. I think we are going to take it to another level this year.
Shout out to our guy Cooper Flagg, who we didn't talk about, but was also like it was in the list. He was debatable. It's just really hard to pick a guy that hasn't played yet when you've seen another guy do the thing that I'm gonna hope that he does. Yeah. So just honorable mention real quick for Cooper Flagg. We'll have plenty of time to talk about him this season. So honorable mention, outside looking in, if you will.
All right, buddy. We will huddle up again and do this again next week. I'll talk to you again soon.